All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Everyday Judaism Podcast. It's so wonderful to be here. And today we are going to continue with the laws of charity. Siman 34, Siman Lamed Daled, Halacha Vav, the sixth halacha. Hanosein Levanov Uvnosov Hagdolim, someone who provides for his older son and daughter, meaning children, She'eno Chayav Bibzonosem, whose sustenance he is not liable. Shehem Yosim Mipnei Sheishanim. Over here he says older than 6 years old. Typically it's older than that, even that you're obligated, that a father is obligated to support. We today support our children till they're married, till they're out of the house. And even then, sometimes we continue to support them. So, but we're talking about Kidei Lelamed es B'habanim Torah, meaning support them, sustain them so that they can learn Torah. And to pay for someone to guide the daughters to go on a straight path. And similarly, one who gives gifts to his father, a father who cannot support himself, other than through his own charity funds. So all of these, and they need this support. These are considered as charity, and maser funds can be used for this. So again, if you remember, just as a review, in previous episodes, we talked about the difference between maser, which is the 10% tithe of everything we earn, and then we have on top of the 10%, which is called tzedakah, which is charity. V'lo od. But moreover, is that the parent or child are obligated to give to their own, meaning to your father or mother or to your children, before you give to others. Even someone who is not his son or his father, elakrovo, but his relative, who kodem l'chol, they take precedence over non-family. We talked about there's priorities in the charity that we give. Charity begins at home is a halacha. The halacha says we first need to give charity to our family. And those who are poor in his own household precede the poor in the city. And the poor in your city precede the poor in another city. Shenemer, as the verse states, right? To your brother, to your poor, to your destitute in your land. Aval, however, the laws apply only to the individual who is giving charity. However, the executor of a charity fund who is distributing charity for the fund, for example, in most congregations, they have a charitable fund that they give to poor people who come to their community, poor people who need for medical assistance or whatever it may be. So such an executor must be careful, not to prioritize his own relatives from community charity over other poor people. Meaning, yes, it's very nice that you're the executor of the community funds, but that does not mean that you can prioritize your family over the other poor people in your community, because that's not your money to decide. A person's own money, yes, that they can prioritize, but other people's money, meaning the congregation's money, which is being allocated to give to the poor, shouldn't go to your family first because you're the executor. Okay, halacha number 7. Anyone who gives money to the poor person, with a sour countenance. You don't give it with a smile. You don't give it, you have your face turned away to the ground. Even if you give him $1 million, you give him 1,000 gold coins, it doesn't make a difference. Such a person has ruined his meritorious deed. You did a great deed, but you ruined it. Why? You lost the mitzvah. You lost the mitzvah because you didn't do it properly. that you have violated the transgression of, and let your heart not feel badly when you give to the poor person. And there's a verse in the Torah. Elo tzorach litin lo b'sever panim yafis u'b'simcha u'misonen imal tzaraso. A person who gives charity needs to give it with a smile. He needs to give it with a love. And you need to commiserate with the person over his misfortune. Kemosha Amar Eov, just like Job says, Im lo bachisi likshe yom ogma nafshi le'evyon. Did I not weep for the heavily burdened? Did I not sorrow for the destitute? Vayidaber lo divri tanchumim v'nichumim shenemar v'leiv almono arnin. And we see that he spoke in consoling and comforting words, as it says in Job again, and I would bring joyous song to a widow's heart. Meaning he took their pain and was there with them. He empathized with them. That's our job, and we mentioned this so many times in all of our classes, particularly in our Jewish Inspiration podcast, where we talked about generosity. We talked, it's not what you give, it's how you give. It's not what you give, it's how you give. The amount of money is yes, it's important. Of course, a person needs a certain amount of money, to live, and a person needs a certain amount of money to get out of their troubles. True. But more important than that is, does this person actually care about me? Does this person feel my pain? Do they know what I'm going through? And that is much more important than the financial amount. Halacha number 8. It is forbidden to turn away a poor person who has requested charity empty-handed. Rekam. You cannot. Even if you give him one little penny, you give him a dime, a nickel, you have to give him something. You cannot leave him empty-handed. All right. It can also be, if you see someone at the street corner, they ask, you have to give them something. You can give them a wafer. You can give them a sandwich. You can give them, a candy, a drink. You can give them, but you can't not give anything. Shnemer al yashov dach nichlom. The verse states in Psalms, let not the oppressed turn back in shame. V'im ein biyodcha klum malitin lo. And if you have nothing to give him, if nothing, I don't have anything. Paiseo v'dvarim, comfort them with words. V'asu ligu ba'oni, and is forbidden to rebuke the poor. O lagbia kolo lavitzaka, or to shout at them. Mipnei shelibo nishbar v'nitka, because they're already brokenhearted. They're already humbled. They're humiliated that they have to go door to door to ask for charity. Right? That's right. Mipnei shelibo nishbar v'nitka. That's right, David. You understand. That's exactly what we know. Some people don't understand the importance of feeling the pain of another person. V'harehu omer, and the verse states, Leiv nishbar v'nitke Elohim lo sivseh. A broken heart and humbled, oh God, you will not despise. Okay, this is so important. The way in which we do our charity. Ve'oy lo lemi shehichle misani. Woe unto the one who embarrasses the poor. Eliyelo kimo av, should be to this person, to the poor, like a father. Bein berachamim, bein bidvarim, whether it be with mercy, whether it be with words. Shenemar ava nochel avyonim, as the verse states in Job again, I was a father to the destitute, meaning feel their pain just like a father would feel the pain of his own child in need. Now, there is something very important that our sages tell us, very, very, very important. Let's say you have money to give, but you're prioritizing it the way the halacha says to prioritize it. Now, someone comes and asks you, so you don't have money to give this person because you have already allocated it or already decided in your mind, I'm going to give it to this cause, which is on my priority list, on the priority of what the halacha says to do. So I just saw this morning when I was preparing, and a very important thing to keep in mind, and that is never say, I don't have. Never say, I don't have. Why? don't open up an opening for the Satan to say, "Oh, you don't have, I'll make you not have." Meaning, you say, "Listen, I can't give you right now. I have it. I don't have it accessible for you right now." There's a way. Even I saw in this book that I was learning that he said you can even say, "I cannot. I cannot at this time." Right? Or you can give another excuse, but don't say, "I don't have." Because if you don't have, you don't want to open the door for the Yetzer Hara or the Satan to say, "Oh, I'm going to make you not have now." So I think it's just an interesting side note. Okay, halacha number 9. A pledge to charity is included in and governed by the rules of vows. Hatzdaka harehi b'chal hanadorim. And therefore, lefikach, ha'omer harei olai sela l'tzdaka, or harei sela zo l'tzdaka. If someone says, "I hereby obligate this coin to charity," or "this coin shall be charity," or "this amount of money shall be, I'm donating this to this and that cause," chayav litna la'aniyim miyad. You have to give it to the designated entity immediately. V'im ichar, and if he procrastinated, litna over bibal ta'achar. And if he violated this prohibition, meaning he procrastinated, he has violated a biblical command which says, "Bal ta'achar," do not delay in fulfilling your vows. Since he could have given it immediately. And if he says, "I'm going to give it to a poor person when I find them," but he hasn't found them, so mafrish or meiniach ad sheyim tzaniyim, then you should set it aside and put it aside, the pledged amount, till you find the poor person. So you can put it in an envelope and say, "This is designated for a poor person. Whenever I meet them, I will give them this envelope." The imno the basic nesses, and if a person pledged while in synagogue, to give charity that is given to the executor of the charity fund to distribute, eino over, he does not violate the prohibition, even if he procrastinates, till the executor demands of him to fulfill his pledge, meaning to send you the invoice, right? So that as an executor's responsibility is to collect on the pledges. That's the executor's job. So someone who's in synagogue and they auction off the aliyah, they auction off an honor in the synagogue, right? So the congregation is obligated to invoice the person to fulfill his pledge. Now, he's still obligated, but he's not considered violating this command of not delaying the fulfillment of vows. Now, if the executor does send out the invoice, so then ve'oz over olel miyad, if he does not give it, then he does violate this prohibition immediately. Ve'im lo kishi yodea, unless he knows unless he knows that the executor does not need the money to disperse immediately, and in such a case, but he will hold it himself. So in that case, you do not need to give it immediately to the executor or to the organization that it's pledged to. It really depends. Every organization is different. People have different styles in how they give charity, and different charities have different styles in which they hunt their donors down. Some people, they come after you, guns blazing. You made a pledge, give me the money, right? And some are much more kind and patient and say, at the right time, people will fulfill their pledges with honesty and with accuracy. Okay, halacha number 10. Mi she'amar etein sela tzedakah l'poloni. Someone who says, "I will give a coin I'll give a certain amount of money to a specific poor individual." Eino over, even if he does not give the money immediately, does not violate this prohibition against delay. Ad sheyava osa'ani, until that person comes to him. V'yachol kol adam lahafrish mos l'tzedakah sheyu menachem etzlo. Similarly, a person may set aside funds for charity, with the stipulation that they will remain with him to distribute little by little as he sees fit. L'chalko b'ma'at me'at kemo sheyero lo. So that's what people have foundations. I guess this is the idea. You have the money which is allocated. It's already given to charity. Now you can decide through the foundation how you're going to distribute that. But that is a person's decision, and a person can hold on to it till he finds the right time to do so. Hakofa acherem shitu tzedakah, one who prevails upon others to give charity, uma'aseh osan, and brings them to give charity, schoro gadol mischar nosen. Such a person gets a greater reward than the person who actually gives the charity. It's an incredible thing. Meaning, if you influence others to give charity, you get a greater reward from heaven than the person who actually gives it. Shenemar v'hoya ma'aseh tzedakah shalom. The product of charity shall be peace. And about the executors of charity, those who collect for charity and those who distribute the charity, it says, and those who make the multitudes do righteousness will shine like the stars. And unfortunately, those executors of charity who are abused by the poor because they're constantly harassing them for more and trying sometimes curse them out because they're not giving them as much as they wanted. Ein lo lachus. Don't be disturbed by this, because this humiliation only makes your reward far more greater. Halacha number 12. Hamala amala agdola she'en lamala himeno b'mala tzedakah. The greatest, the highest level of charity, that no level of charity exists above it. He hamachzik biyad yisrael hamoch v'mota yado. Is one who strengthens the hand of a Jewish person who becomes impoverished, and as his hand falters, kodem sha'oni ligamre, before he becomes fully impoverished, sheyitein lo matana haguna b'derech kavod, to give him, not wait till he's poor, and he doesn't have anything left. Catch him before he falls and give him a substantial gift in an honorable manner. What does it mean in an honorable manner? Meaning not in a way that's public, not in a way that takes away one's dignity, but rather one that keeps the person's dignity uplifted. Ad shialveu mos, o shialveu mos, or lend him money. O yase imo shutfus, or make a partnership with him. O yamtsi lo eze esek o malacho, provide him, make up some type. All right. I'm sorry for the technical issues here, but we are resuming our class. Halacha number 13. Yeshli zor litain es tzedakah behester. So as we mentioned previously, one should be very careful to give charity in secret, without embarrassing the person who's receiving it. In any way possible. The im efshar litna, and if you're able to give it beofen shuhu be'atzma enu yodel mi shenosna, v'gam oni enu yodel mi kiblo tov me'od. Right? If you're able to give it in a way that the recipient doesn't know who it's from, and the giver doesn't know who it's to, meaning you give it to a middle party that's able to distribute it for you. A person shouldn't glorify himself by the charity that he gives. However, if he dedicates an object to charity, it is permissible. It's a very interesting halacha. It is permissible for him to inscribe his name upon it, meaning this has been dedicated by David Block, right? You can have that sign that says the David Block building, the Torch Center, right? The David Block Torch Center. Right? A person can have his name on it to be a memorial for him, so he can remember it. It can be something which can be a source of pride for the entire family and for the entire legacy. That would be a beautiful thing. He says, moreover, it is indeed appropriate to do this. Now, again, there are some people who want their name to be not seen at all, and some people who understand that this would be an encouragement for others to give. This would also be something of pride for their children, where their children will see, like, wow, these were the values of my parents, and now this is the legacy I want to continue after they're following their ways. Okay. Halacha number 14. It is very, extremely important, he says here, to support Torah scholars and to provide their needs in a manner befitting their honor. And if he doesn't want to accept, then we endeavor to help him with business. Where you sell a merchandise cheaply and purchase it back at a premium. And if he's knowledgeable in business, he has the business mind, then you can lend him monies with which he can do business. Our sages of blessed memory said, anyone who gives merchandise to a Torah scholar with which to do business, such a person will merit to sit in the heavenly academy with the Almighty, as it states in the Talmud. All the prophets prophesied only about the rewards that will be received by one who engages in business with a Torah scholar, and one who marries his daughter off to a Torah scholar. Halacha number 15, just two more halachas here. One should, if possible, distance himself from accepting charity. Now we're talking about the recipient now. A person should do anything he can, endure any privation, just to avoid taking from charity. Not to depend on people. And our sages of blessed memory said, treat your Shabbos table as a weekday table, and do not be dependent on people. Even one who was a respected scholar and became poor, should engage in a trade, even a repulsive trade, and do not become dependent on people. And we see in the Talmud, there are many, many scholars in the Talmud who are blacksmiths, silversmiths, that had filthy hands, right? But they were great scholars. They didn't want to come onto having to need the community's charity. So even they wanted to learn Torah, great, learn Torah, but they would as well find a way to support themselves with even if it was a not exactly the cleanest trade. It was a repulsive trade, one that had a bad odor, didn't make a difference. If it was dirty, didn't make a difference. Do whatever it takes not to come onto the community charity. All right, now final halacha number 16. Kol mi she'eino tzarich litol me'atzdaka. Anyone who does not need to take from charity, umerame es habrios v'notel, and deceives people into assuming that he is poor and thus takes from charity funds, eino meis achdi tzarich labrios. Such a person is sort of what do they call it? They call it to manifest. He's manifesting poverty, and such a person will not die until he is forced to truly become dependent on others. And anyone who needs to take charity and is unable to live unless he takes, someone who's elderly, someone who's sick, or someone who's afflicted, and refuses to take due to his inflated pride, such a person is considered a murderer. Why aren't you taking from charity to provide for yourself, to take for you? You're liable for your own life. And he does not have any merit for his self-affliction. Rather, it is only sin and transgression. However, anyone who does need to accept charity but accepts privation upon himself and pushes off the time which he would accept charity by living a life of deprivation, so as not to be a burden on the community, such a person will not die until he has the means to support others. And regarding such a person, it states, blessed is the person who trusts in Hashem. Okay, so there's a difference between one who is unable to live, someone who is going to die, someone who is sick, afflicted with terrible, disease or whatever it may be, someone who's extremely old, and just because of their inflated pride doesn't want to accept. That's not okay. But there are many, many amazing stories of people who were extremely, extremely rewarded for their greatness. I'll tell you the quick story of Yasala, the holy miser. I was actually at his grave. I went to his grave in Poland. It really is an amazing story. So what happened is that he passed away. Right before he passed away, he was known as the miser. And what would happen? People would ask him for charity. He would say, "No way, get out of here! I'm not giving you charity." Right? And everybody tried and tried and tried. Finally, he was on his deathbed, and the rabbis came and they said, if you don't give us money for your burial, we're not going to be able to bury you in the cemetery. He started laughing. He says, "You think you're going to get money out of me? You're not going to get any money out of me. It's not going to help. Whatever you try to do, I'm not giving you money." So they said, "It's the last warning. You're about to die. This is like, Turns out he did not give them money, and they buried him outside. What happened last week? Last week, we got money under the door. Last week, we got money under the door. This week, there's no money under the door." And the rabbi started asking and investigating more what happened. Each one would say, "Well, we would all go to Yasala, the holy miser, and we would all be persuaded that we were the one who was going to be able to change him. We would be able to crack the code, how to get money out of him. And we'd go, we'd prepare our whole proposal to Yasala, and he would welcome us into his house, and he would serve us food and wine and dine us. And then he'd say, "Okay, now why did you come?" He said, "Well, I came, I have a wife and children. I lost my job. I need livelihood." He would say, "Oh, really? How much do you need?" They'd say, "I would need, let's say $500. You said, "You need $500. Where, how many children do you have?" He would tell him how many children, where exactly do you live, how much is rent, et cetera, et cetera. He would get all the vital information, And then suddenly he'd put on an angry face. And he'd say, you think I'm going to give you this money? Get out of my house. He'd throw him down the steps. Get out of here. Don't ever come back here. And every single one of these poor people had the same story with this Yassel, the holy miser. What happened is that what they didn't realize is he was taking copious notes from each one of these people and then providing them money under their door. He would slip every Wednesday morning. He would slip an envelope with cash under their door so that they would never suspect that it was actually him. And he would go privately, door to door, to each one of these poor people, slip it under their door anonymously, and they had money for Shabbos. So on his tombstone, it said, Yassel Kamsen, here is buried Yassel the miser, but then they added underneath it, Kadosh, the holy miser. We didn't know that he was such a holy man. They didn't realize that really he was supporting the entire community. All the poor people in the community were, those who were destitute needed his charity that he gave. And the week that he passed away, suddenly nobody had anymore. So there are ways to give. There's very beautiful ways to give. And it's something that we mentioned this many, many times. Giving is a muscle. It's a muscle. And the Rambam teaches us that it's better to give $1 million $1 bills than to give $1 million check. Okay? Meaning it's better to give $1 million single dollar bills. Why? Because what happens is that you learn to give, you learn to give, you learn to give. There's a story that's told that there was once a king who needed an executioner, and he needed someone to take care of his treasury. So he picked a very cruel person for the treasury, and he picked a very kind person for the executioner. A few years later, he called them back in. It turned out that the executioner, who was so kind, became cruel, and the person from the treasury became very kind. Why? Because he was hearing the pleas of all these people, and he was giving and giving and giving and giving and giving. He eventually, it softened his heart, and he became a big giver. But the person who was the execution and started killing and killing and killing those who disobeyed the king's decrees, he became very, very cruel. So we see that the actions that we do manifest. And when we are kind, that kindness continues to give. And when we are cruel, God forbid, we become cruel. So we all want to be kind. We all want to be giving. We want to be godlike. And this is what we ask Hashem. We want to be godlike. We want to be like you. And we have to open up the doorways for that shefa, for that blessing to come to us. So Hashem should bless us all. We're going to stop here. We're going to end this broadcast here. And I look forward, God willing, to continuing our learning together with kindness, with giving, and with a countenance, which is the most important. That everything that we give should be with a smile, not out of pain. Oh, it hurts me to write this check, but rather, I'm so excited. I'm delighted that I have the opportunity, I have the privilege to be on the giving end of this transaction. My dear friends, today's Thursday. It's almost Shabbos. Have an amazing Shabbos. I look forward. If anybody has any questions, I'll open the floor to questions.